Today I'm going to show you some of my favourite and most inspiring art books. Hello darlings, thank you so much for joining me in my studio today. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name's Michelle and I like to post videos every fortnight about my creative processes and hopefully inspire others to be more creative in their lives. Today's video, I'm just going to show you a few of my favourite books. Now before we start, a quick disclaimer, I don't collect books at all. I'm actually quite a minimalist. So I only keep books that I refer to and they really inspire me. So I'm just going to go through a few of those today, starting with the most influential book of my collection. Okay, there are two books that started off my love for textile design and textile art, and they are, I'm not sure how easy this is going to be, Kay Fassett, Glorious Needlepoint and Glorious Colour. These two books changed my life. Now I went to art school just out of high school. I used lots of different mediums, but nothing really clicked with me. And then about a year or two after art school, I was working in a library and I kept seeing these Kay Fassett books pop up. And I borrowed them and I was blown away by how creative this guy is. And even now, he's in his 80s, he's still creating. He's started so many trends. He was first into knitting, then needlepoint, then mosaics, then quilting. He just does so many things. And I've seen him live giving lectures and he is so inspiring. So these two books are credited with starting off my love for needlepoint, which was my obsession for quite a while until I decided to study handwoven tapestry. So this guy is to blame. The next book I'm going to show you is Morris & Co. Now, it's actually an exhibition catalogue, a very fancy one, from the Art Gallery of South Australia. And they did a William Morris and the Arts and Crafts Movement exhibition in, I think, 2003. And they produced this beautiful book. And I've always loved William Morris's work. I know you probably can't tell that from looking at my work, but I've always loved William Morris's work. I find it really inspiring. And also he's the dude who actually made handwoven tapestry popular again in the late 1900s. So, you know, he's pretty full on, this guy. I'm showing you a few of the pages from this book. It's really amazing. But I also like to visit places that have William Morris in there. Like the Art Gallery of South Australia still has a great collection of arts and crafts movement tapestries and, you know, tiles and furniture. They still have, I think, one of the best collections in Australia. So I still go and visit those quite often, and also some of the houses in South Australia like Carrick Hill still have quite a few of that work in there as well, which I find really inspiring. Okay, the next book is completely off the topic of traditional art. It's more about my aesthetic of the goth subculture, which I really love. This book came out a few years ago. If you're a goth, you would have already known about it. Somewhere Leather, Somewhere Lace. It is a collection of photos, I think mainly from the 1980s, and I just love this book, and I have referred to this book quite often when I'm doing my work. So this book, probably more than any other, you can see where my works come from if you look at photos like this. I tend not to wear my influences on my sleeve, but if anything, any of these books that you see today are closest, it's probably this one. The next books I'm showing you are Grayson Perry books. Now, I've always loved Grayson Perry. He is such an inspiration to me, mainly because he works in an unconventional medium. He works in ceramics, and ceramics is not traditionally a fine art medium, but he has totally rocked that, and he's won the Turner Prize, and he's just genius. And he's always pushing boundaries all the time. So this book, Grayson Perry by Jackie Klein, it is a really amazing book that just goes through his whole career and it just documents all of his work. It is absolutely incredible, and it's a pretty big book as well, so it gives a really good overview with beautiful photos. Now, the other book that I love is actually written by Grayson Perry, Playing to the Gallery. And this book is amazing because it's him talking about the art world, talking about being an artist, and all from his really sort of alternative point of view. So if you're an artist and you're really interested in finding out views of an artist from someone who's completely unconventional but still successful, then I highly recommend that you read this book. The next book I'm going to show you is another book that I bought at an exhibition. So there's an Australian artist, I think she's from Sydney, called Nell, and Nell is she's very cool, super awesome. That's the catalogue from the Walkway Gallery. And I went to the exhibition opening. The Walkway Gallery is in Bordertown, which is like in the middle of nowhere. And it was such a cool exhibition. She actually came to the opening and I got to meet her. I totally fangirled over her. She's amazing. She's so nice. And I bought the book that sort of documents quite a lot of her work. This one here. Now, Nell is a great example of a contemporary Australian artist who is very successful and is producing work that is definitely not traditional or conventional in any way, shape or form. So I find people like that really inspirational. The next one I'm going to show you is, again, there seems to be a theme here, a really great exhibition book, catalogue, whatever you like to call it. But this is an exhibition that I went to few years ago at the National Gallery of Victoria, and it was from a period, my most favourite period in Australian art history, around about the 1930s, and the exhibition included fashion, it included photography, it included painting and posters and all sorts of things. It was really, really amazing exhibition, and the book is so beautiful. I flick through it quite often, just having a look at all the amazing work that came out of Australia at that time. So I couldn't resist buying this book, and I'm really glad I did because I keep referring back to it. Okay, this next book is definitely not an art book. The Anatomy Colouring Book. Now, this book was actually loaned to me from a friend who's actually a physio, and she used this when she was studying, and I just didn't give it back to her, and I ended up just buying her a brand new copy because I wanted to keep this one. And anyway, it's really great book. It's actually very technical, but what I've used it for a lot is when I'm doing a lot of the anatomy on some of my work, sometimes the picture I'm referring to doesn't give enough information. So I actually like to use this just to get a little bit more information, just so it's, I mean, I'm not too concerned about everything being completely anatomically correct, but at least I like to get a bit of a guide. So that's why I use this book quite a lot. And the very last book I'm going to show you is, again, not an art book, but City of Shadows. If you're Australian and watching this, you probably have seen this book. It's actually Sydney police photographs from 1912 to 1948, and it was released at a time when there were a few TV shows around showing the sort of dark side of Sydney at that time, the razor gangs and things like that. And I have been interested in these kinds of images for quite a long time. The work that I'm doing at the moment has not an image from this book, but it has a crime scene photo. I think it's an American one from about that time as well. So I do like to use some of those as reference photos, but I think I might try and use a few more of these as well because they've got a great range of photos in there. And while I'm flicking through and showing you, I will not show you the more graphic photos because there are some in this book. But if you're interested, definitely grab a copy of that one. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's inspired you to look at your own book collection and see if there's anything in there that can inspire your creativity. Again, they don't have to be art books. They can just be books that you are completely fascinated with, and that can be a really good jumping off point for creating really interesting artworks that are not the same as everyone else. And as I talked about the other week, they can also define your visual language. So I'll have a link to that video at the end of this one. So thank you again for joining me. I would really love if you could like this video and subscribe to my channel. But until next time, bye.